Hey, everybody, it's Scott Steen with winnersandwhiners.com coming to you with the TGIF version of Today in Sports Betting. And we got a little bit to talk about today. We're pretty excited. We're talking about some of the, I hate to say real sports. We got American sports that are on the horizon, maybe coming back. And we're going to yak about that. And who better to join me in the yak attack is my co-host all the way from the great state of New York, where they have flattened the curve. Everything's looking great. Everything's coming up roses. All right, that'll be my last Ethel Merman of the day. Hey, let's bring on Scott Reichel. Hey, Scott, what's up, buddy?
Doing pretty well. Definitely had a lot of fun yesterday covering the UFC stuff. Pretty interesting dynamic with one of the plays I actually gave out. I gave out Mearshart by submission or decision at plus 150, and his opponent was pulled out of the card because one of his cornermen tested positive for corona. So they're like, all right, we're going to bring in this new guy. He's going to fight him. And then 2 hours later, they basically said, no, never mind, he's ready. So they brought him back after throwing him out off the card. So everything's back to normal, and my plus 150 is still alive. So
because I hadn't heard that because I know you texted me and said my 3-2 shot's dead.
Yeah, because they said Heinisch was pulled from the card, and then about 2 hours later, they basically said, no, we retested him, and we're good. So false alarm. I'm like, all right, cool. I guess I still have action.
And again, as we've talked about, I don't follow the UFC like you do, but it seems to me, from kind of an outsider perspective, the UFC is sometimes kind of like you and me are running a league. It's not necessarily – it's more like just a dude making decisions in his basement as opposed to a legitimate sports league. Am I wrong on that? Is Dana White just kind of a – I don't know, the Vince McMahon of quote-unquote real sports?
I think you can make that argument that he's the judge, jury, and executioner of the league, and I think he definitely places favorites on some fighters over others and just how he wants things to be done. Having said that, I'm sure there's a lot going on behind the scenes that people don't know, and Dana White has been known, kind of like a Vince McMahon, to never shy away from the public. And he will always share his opinions, he'll always do interviews, he'll always do whatever. So he's really good when it comes to actually promoting the brand and when it comes to trying to create a very, at least in the public eye, a very honest, relationship between the public and the company. How much behind the scenes being dishonest is a separate story. But when it comes to just the general media and the reputation that he's gotten, he's known for being a very hands-on guy with regard to the organization.
Yeah, I think that certainly sums it up pretty well. Definitely hands-on for sure. We didn't talk about yesterday. Real quick before we get rolling on today's subject, this is going to be in Vegas, right? Is that where it is actually coming from?
Yes. Well, I know last week they had it at the Apex Center, and I believe it will be in the same location. So it should be in Vegas. I know that they're still working on Fight Island, believe it or not. So that actually is still a thing, and that supposedly will be ready within probably around 2-3 weeks. So you actually have a decent amount of cards that will be taking place on the Fight Island for, I'd say the next couple of months. How much do you really need it anymore? I don't know, because you have Florida and you have Vegas now, so you don't really need it as much as you used to need it. But for traveling purposes, definitely could make a little bit more sense, maybe, because you could just put people on the island months in advance and just have them train there. Because apparently they have like a hotel set up and a training facility set up, and you can do things that way. But yes, this will be taking place in Vegas, and it will be taking place once again in the smaller octagon that happened last week, which resulted in a decent amount of early stoppages. So I didn't mention that in yesterday's video. Keep that in mind to look for some stoppages potentially happening more frequently because of the smaller perimeters.
Are they going to fight in a septagon?
Not exactly. I don't think it's a hexagon either, but the dimensions will be smaller, kind of like what happened last week. And you saw how the first, I believe it was 4 or 5 fights, all ended by stoppage in either the first or second round. Right. So you could see a decent amount of stoppages once again, based on the fact that you have less room to run away, so to speak.
I'm gonna fight in the rhombus of doom. That's right.
Yes, the rhombus of doom has a nice ring to it. You got to keep it symmetrical, though. That's the secret.
I got to tell you, another month of quarantine, I think my wife and I are going to be ready to go to Fight Island.
That sounds like a decent vacation spot, honestly. If you told me you can go away for about a month in a tropical area and just watch people just beat the crap out of each other almost every weekend, and you could have stuff by the tropical drinks by the bar, I'm not really going to say no to that type of proposition.
Good times indeed. Scott, we do have some good news today for those of you that are anxious for the North American sports to return. And let's kick it off with probably the best news, the league that's probably furthest along towards their post-virus plans, and that is, of course, the NBA. Scott, the NBA officially approved. I saw they still have one more step where the Board of Governors have to approve it, but it looks like that's kind of a de forma thing that actually absolutely will happen. So the NBA going to move to Disney World, and they're going to keep everybody sequestered down there, and going to start up training camp somewhere around the middle of July, start their season, much like we talked about a couple of weeks ago, at the end of July. It's going to be an 8-game kind of seeding round robin sort of thing, and yeah, we're gonna have 22 teams. Scott, tell us what else we know about this plan.
So the way that I understand it is that pretty much everything that was proposed, I'd say about a week and a half ago, the last time we talked about this, before they actually agreed to anything, pretty much was approved. And it seems like they're going to be doing weekly testing to try to make sure that nobody gets corona, or if they do, they can potentially stifle the spread of it. But for the most part, you're going to have 13 teams in the West. You're going to have 9 teams from the Eastern Conference, and you're going to pretty much have a play-in tournament to try to get into the regular bracket. So every team from 8 onward in either the Eastern Conference or the Western Conference will be having some type of play-in tournament capacity thing to try to see who has the right to get destroyed by either the Lakers or the Bucks in the first round. So, a lot of extra steps for probably the right to get swept. Kind of curious how certain teams will, how seriously they will take it. But that definitely is something to keep in mind. I'm not sure, though. One question that I have for you, and I don't know if you know the answer to this. I know normally when it comes to the draft lottery, it's all the teams that don't make the playoffs. I'm assuming that all the teams that don't make the 16-team bracket are still going to be in the lottery?
They are, as far as I know, from everything that I've read, they're still formalizing the plans on how the draft is going to be affected. As far as the teams not making the playoffs.
So my question in general was, let's just say you have the Western Conference move and you have 8 through 13, right? Let's just say 11. The 11 seeded team wins the tournament and makes it, and they are the new 8 seed. Does the original 8 seed now enter the draft lottery because they didn't make the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that's the way that you have to do it.
I agree. I'm just curious because nobody's really talked about it. Not that it really matters because the odds of them even winning the lottery are less than 1%. I'm just curious how that'll work.
Yeah, I've got my notes here, and I'm looking at it, and I've got dates. It looks like draft lottery is going to go August 25th, but they don't have they don't have any. I don't have notes on this press release about what they're going to do, so I'm assuming it's going to be the same way that same as it ever was. To quote the great Talking Head song, I think it's going to be all the teams that did make the playoffs with the new format are going to be in a lot.
Yeah, I'm assuming it's the same way, but the reason why I bring it up is because there's a difference between making the playoffs and being invited to compete for the playoff spot. So I feel like you're adding extra teams here. I'm assuming that the 16 teams that make the playoffs won't be in the lottery, and the others who, even if they got invited and they lose in the first round of the play-in, will still be in the lottery anyway. But the reason why I bring it up, you have to wonder what exactly the incentive is for some of these teams to not just lose in the play-in tournament. I know that you can make the argument saying, from a competitor's mindset, you want, to make the playoffs and you want to have the experience and whatever. But you also have people like Damian Lillard who have come out publicly and basically said, I'm not really in. And I know Portland voted against this whole.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that, the 29-1 vote.
Portland, which I find hilarious because they're one of the teams that got invited that shouldn't have been invited based on the original 1 through 8 in each conference setup. And Portland still voted, no, we don't want to be here. We want to take the off season, and get ready. I'm curious, is Portland going to care?
That's not exactly accurate, okay? I mean, according to the players and everybody with Portland, they wanted a better plan. They didn't want to take this. They didn't want to say no to the season. They thought there were better plans out there that would have been I guess if I remember the quote, it was like more creative, more original. So I think they just were anxious for a better plan. And I think it was almost a politically correct vote on the part of Portland management, because if you see the tweets, a lot of the players came out and praised management for voting against this plan. So I think, I don't know. And I know what Lillard has said. I don't know what's going to happen.
That's what I have to wonder, though. You're bringing in these extra teams. Do you think Lillard and some of these other superstars know in the back of their mind, you think Devin Booker is looking forward to the playoffs saying we're going to win the championship? Of course not. I mean, it's most of the teams they got no shot.
You don't think that way as a competitor.
I agree. No, I agree. But the point I'm trying to say is that you're bringing in a lot of teams that probably don't deserve to be there. Is it really going to add much? Probably not. I'm not saying that the players are going to mail it in and say, this is a complete waste of time. I'm just saying, logically speaking, we know whoever wins this play-in system, is just going to get swept in the first round anyway.
Well, but I mean, you could look at if you wanted to use that logic, you could use that same logic for the last 2 weeks of any regular season. I mean, if you're 2 games out of the 8th spot and you've got 2 or 3 weeks left in the season, by your logic, why are you even trying?
Well, my question for you, I guess, would be if you were on any type of team in basketball, right? And your team was going to be I'd say 10 seed, right? So your team wasn't going to make the playoffs.
Right.
And suddenly there was a new proposal to potentially get you into a play-in system in some random Disney World court in Florida, and you were going to have to, quarantine yourself for about a month to try to set the whole thing up. Would you be excited for that plan? I don't know. That's the point I'm trying to say. I don't feel like a lot of players are thrilled to be here. That's all I'm saying.
I don't know. You follow Twitter more than I do. I don't know the rank and file reaction to this.
Well, you mentioned Portland now. They kind of commended the front office for voting against it. So it's kind of similar to what we talked about in baseball, which we'll get into with the Blake Snell thing, which we already talked about. Are they just speaking for themselves, or are they speaking on behalf of a lot of people? Because I feel like a lot of NBA players aren't exactly thrilled with this proposal.
I think it all comes down to the money. I think it all comes down to how much money are they going to make by extending the season like this. And that's the NBA, and to their credit, they do it kind of the smart way. They haven't talked a lot about the financial details as far as this goes. Have you been able to glean any information about what this means to the paychecks, the NBA players?
Well, I do know that I know the players were very, very adamant, especially LeBron, on having more regular season games. And I believe the reason why they wanted to do that was to break the magic threshold of, I want to say 66 to 70. I forgot the exact number. But they wanted the local TV contracts to kick in.
Right.
So they would make extra revenue from the local TV streams. So the fact that they added 8 regular season games in addition to the playoff format doesn't surprise me. But that seemed to be the main reason why. It was based on trying to fulfill these local contract obligations.
Now, I read something about they're going to have to take a little bit of a pay cut. But the weird thing is some of the players have already been paid in full for the season. Like LeBron, for example, has already made his money. So they're talking about docking his salary, for lack of a better term, in the 2020-2021 season coming up. So, yeah, I don't know how, and I'm sure we're going to get more details as this gets closer as far as the financial end of it goes and why they're doing it. But, the bottom line is, Scott, we're going to have basketball to bet on, all right? And we're going to have NBA games that mean something.
My future survived the abyss.
Your future, you stared into the abyss.
And I came out on top so far. I got the Lakers and Clippers, and I'm going to let it ride. I kind of wish it was 1 through 16, though, so the Lakers could play the Clippers in the finals.
Yeah, that would be the dream scenario for you.
That would be the definite dream scenario, but I'm not going to advocate one way or the other. I personally think 1 through 16 would just be fun. You have to worry about traveling, though, because you do have East and West Coast teams that are that might be against each other, and I feel like home court advantage would just be too huge in those series as you're traveling East Coast to West Coast and West Coast to East Coast. It'll just be a real just pain in the ass, if I'm being honest, when it comes to traveling for the 2 home games, 2 road games, that kind of stuff.
It would be a great time to do it, but it would be a 1-year thing only. So here's what we do know. The regular season is going to extend 16 days. They're going to play 5 to 6 games per day. They're going to be 4 hours between games on each individual court, which is going to accommodate, of course, overtimes, cleanings, warm-ups. The league is going to be using, much like we talked about the other day, 3 different courts in the complex for the games. So they will be able to play games simultaneously. And in the 8-game regular season format, each game is expected to play one back-to-back game, which I guess that means on, I guess, consecutive days. Not, not the, we don't have a noon game and an 8 o'clock game.
I don't think it's going to be a pickup game in the park scenario where you're just
playing it. Yeah, like you're playing an AAU tournament.
Like you're just running the court for about 4 hours. No, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they mean just back-to-back days. So. And
here's something I'm actually excited about that I wish they'd do all the time. The NBA is expected to be aggressive in moving up the dates to start playoff series when the previous round series comes to an end. Hallelujah, Scott.
You weren't a fan of waiting about a week in between rounds?
Oh, my God. A 4-game sweep, you wait 10 days for the next series to start? Jesus. No, I'm not a fan. Not a fan. I like that they're doing it that way. And I know under normal circumstances that creates logistical problems. I know people have tickets and for a certain date, but, man, as a fan, that is really frustrating.
Well, question, though. Sorry to interrupt. Is that just for this year, or is that for future playoffs as well? Because that makes a lot of sense for this year because there's no traveling involved.
That's just for this year.
Yeah, so, I mean, you were talking about tickets and talking about other stuff. There's a lot of variables that normally play a factor that aren't playing a factor.
No, I understand why they don't do it. I'm just saying as a fan, that's a very frustrating thing. And it seems like, I don't know, am I wrong? Does hockey do it that way? It just seems like hockey starts up as soon as they're done. Am I wrong on that?
Hockey, I believe, is a little bit more wrong. Hockey still does wait, but they are a little bit more proactive when it comes to starting the next series. They're not I've seen some scenarios where the NHL has started a series while the other series hasn't even finished yet. I've seen that where you've had like a game 7 in the early in the early evening, and then the late evening you already have game 1, and you're just going, okay, I guess we're just diving right into this.
Absolutely.
So I haven't seen that in the NBA. So the NHL is a little bit more proactive with that regard, but I don't expect some teams to just immediately be, all right, we're ready for the conference finals, and you're going, well, we still got game 2 of the second round in this series. That's not going to happen. But
here's how this is going to work. They're going to test everybody. They're going to test everybody on a daily basis is what they say. And if one person tests positive, they're just basically going to pull him off the team, quarantine him, treat him individually, and everybody else is going to go on with the testing. So as long as you've tested negative, regardless of someone on your team has tested positive, the games are still going to go on. You agree with that, Scott? Do you think that's good?
Yeah, I think I misspoke before. I think I said they were being tested weekly when we started. It was daily. So my apologies for misspeaking there. I don't really know what else you're supposed to do. Now the issue you have to wonder now is with everything that's going on in society, nobody's really talking about Corona anymore, and it seems like all of the trends, so to speak, have started to level out a little bit. So hopefully it won't be that big of an issue in the future. But the point is you never know. So in this certain situation where one person testing positive could completely derail the entire plan, you pretty much have to test every day.
Yeah.
So I don't really think this is really negotiable.
You can't let one positive test stop the league.
I'm assuming we agree on that. You don't really have a choice. You have to test every day.
Oh yeah. You have to test everybody every day. That's the way it works. And I know football, and we're going to talk about this here in a minute, but I know they're going to test at Notre Dame. They said the tests were about $100 a piece. So I don't know how many people are going to actually be in the bubble with an NBA team. Maybe, what do you think, Scott? 30, something like that.
Well, you also have to wonder, what about all the people providing food, the restaurants, stuff like? Are they getting tested every day?
No. And here's how this is going to work. Everybody in the bubble can go out, players and coaches, they're going to be allowed to play golf or to eat at outdoor restaurants. They still need to maintain social distancing is what the sources are saying as far as the plan goes.
But I'm saying that's a slippery slope because you can wonder, well, what if they go to a restaurant and one of the people in the kitchen have the virus?
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of stuff you can't control. That's the problem.
No, and I think that's why you test daily because
that's what I'm trying to say. There's no other way you can do it. There's so many.
Because you're going to come in contact with people on a daily basis that aren't in the bubble, whether you're playing golf or whether you're having dinner or something like that. So And I want to say something. Just because the news media has picked a new story to start talking about for the last week and a half, it doesn't really. The virus doesn't care whether the news is talking about it or not. So, we're kind of holding our breath here to see what happened over Memorial Day as some of the states start to reopen. Preliminary information looks good. Some of the states that have kind of opened up, as far as Florida, Georgia, they don't seem to be having big spikes down there. I know Alabama is spiking. We're spiking here in Missouri, in particular where I live, but 200 of the cases came out of one paper factory.
Yeah.
So, sometimes like that, you get results that skew the bottom line. So, I don't know, Scott. I don't know. Hopefully, from what I've read, the virus seems to transmit by people spending a lot of time in a closed environment with the same people. So if you're outside, if you're moving on, if you're hanging out, playing golf, playing tennis, something like that, you're probably fine. To me, going and sitting in a small restaurant for a couple hours, that would be something that's going to take a while for me to do. Now, would I go outside and eat on a patio? Yeah, probably. But I don't think that I would. I don't think that I'm going to be going inside anytime soon. And the question is, what I want to know, Scott, and I haven't seen any stats on this at all. I'd like to know how many people have been getting it through airplanes, because to me, an airplane seems like the absolute worst place for picking up the virus.
Well, I'm thinking whether it's going to be airplanes or just the whole process of going through an airport. Because you're going to be lifting bins that people have been touching all over the place. People have belongings in the bins that they constantly clean. There's a lot of, let's just say, if you've been to any airport in your life, which pretty much everyone has, of some of the questionable hygienes of people that you're going to come in contact with in the airport. So not even just the plane, just the whole process of everything.
Yeah. So, now, I saw a report a couple of weeks ago. They came out and the CDC came out and said that we maybe have overestimated the impact that contact with surfaces has. So
it's possible. I think but then again, to come to their defense a little bit, I think it's better to overestimate than underestimate in those types of situations.
Absolutely. No, I think, I don't think there's any kind of, I don't want to get off on a rant here, but I don't think there's any kind of conspiracy. I don't think there's any kind of malfeasance. I think this thing caught a lot of people by surprise. Now you can go back and say whether that, why that happened. But I think that we did the best we could trying to adjust on the fly to a virus where we basically started at zero as far as having information and how it's transmitted and everything. So I don't know. We'll see, man. It should be interesting to see. I like this plan. They're going to have, people in the bubble there with the team. They're going to be sequestered in the hotel. The one thing I didn't see about the plan, and maybe you can speak on this, is I don't know if they're going to have their, if it's just going to be essential personnel, if you're going to be allowed to have your family there. Have you seen anything on that?
From what I heard is that there are some rumors that families will not be allowed early on, but as teams continue to get eliminated from the playoffs, you can slowly bring in a couple family members because you will have more room. So from what I heard is that, for example, first round playoffs, you have 16 teams. So after the first round, half the people in the bubble are gone. And I heard you could slowly but surely bring in some family members because you will be having excess room in comparison to where you start.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hate that.
It's not confirmed, but there's been some rumors about that.
All right. Well, that's going to be interesting in of itself. And then what do you do with the family members? Are they sequestered? Can they go out and do anything they want to? Or are they going to be confined to outdoor restaurants and golf courses as well?
I don't know.
All right. So NBA, and I don't want to talk about. We did talk about the odds extensively here a couple weeks ago. You and I talked before the show started about the one play that you wouldn't make. Tell us about the team that's getting some heat right now for what appears to be no apparent reason.
Yeah, the Nets have been flying downward in terms of odds. They opened up, I believe, at roughly 750 to 1 before the actual pandemic happened. They were 750 to 1. Durant wasn't going to play. This team's basically a 7 or an 8 seed.
Wait. When you're saying 70 from 750, you're saying plus 750?
No, I mean you bet $1 to win $750.
Okay.
So they're 750 to 1. They were.
Okay.
And then this whole pandemic happened, and there's been an indefinite delay. or I'd say mid-season, off-season, whatever you want to call it, and now they're going to be bringing it back in late July. So there have been some conspiracy theorists out there who think that the extra layoff time will cause Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving to both come back from injury, and that the Nets are a dark horse candidate to suddenly win the Eastern Conference. And the Nets have gone from 750 to 1 to 60 to 1, or even 50 to 1. So
Right.
you've lost roughly $700 of value for every dollar you bet. And I still don't think the Nets are going to bring Durant back. So I think that people have just been deciding to burn money.
Yeah, and I'm a percentage guy, so I tend to look at it. If you've gone from 750 to 50, you've lost about 97% of your value.
I think it makes sense if you hypothetically have a cash out option at your book. And then what I mean by that is some books just let you place a bet, and then as soon as you place the bet, you can hit the eject button for an adjusted price. So maybe if you took it at plus 750 and now it's 50, you made an extra, I don't know, you made like 2 times your money, maybe, if that's an option. But if you actually plan on waiting this out for a future bet, they're going to lose in the first round. I'm not sure what to tell you. They're going to lose. It's just the way it is. Durant's not coming back.
His injury to play up there, to play down there in Orlando for a 2-week tournament.
Yeah, I'll just ask, do you think it makes any sense to bring back a guy off an Achilles injury who hasn't played in, 12 months, and they're suddenly going to throw him back with no chemistry at all and just expect him to drop 30 a game?
Now, if this was his last season in New Jersey, then maybe. But they've got him to a long-term deal, right? They've got, 3 more years for him?
Well, this is the first year of the deal, and they haven't been in New Jersey in about 7 years. So.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm just busting your chops a little bit. No, but Durant signed, I believe it was a 4-year deal, so I think he has 3 more years after this. I'm not sure about the opt-out clauses or anything like that. But in reality, let's just say Durant does come back. The people who bet plus 750 to 1 think Durant's going to be playing 35 minutes a game. He's going to be playing 10. I hope you realize that. He's not going to be playing that much. Even if he does play, and I don't see that happen.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys are going to be out of shape, but he's going to be especially out of shape because, he's been very, very limited in his workouts for, like I said, 12 months since the playoffs last year when he ripped that Achilles. So, so don't – I guess what we're saying, if you've learned nothing else from our video today, don't bet on the Nets. Don't do it. I'm
a Nets fan, so keep that in mind. I root for the Nets. Don't do it. Just don't do it. That's my advice for you.
Although if you've got a 750 ticket, you might be able to get a good price on that on what's the ticket exchange or the site where you can sell your
prop swap.
That's one of them. Yeah, that's there's a couple.
I was gonna say you either have that option or you could just bet on the Celtics or Toronto in the first round at minus. I don't even know what the hell 900. Right. I don't even know, but they're not going to get past the first round. That's just not happening.
Probably right. Probably right. They're going to have to go up against the Milwaukee Bucks most likely. So.
Well, it's either them or the Magic because they're right now competing for the 7 or 8. So it really you're going to have to wait it out for these 8 games to see who they're going to be playing. If they play the Bucks in the first round, break out the brooms. It's a 4-game sweep. It's over. Giannis is going to average 35 and 15. It's not going to matter. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on that.
All right, fair enough. All right, very good. Just duly noted, in case you didn't see our show last time, the way it works is they're taking 9 teams from the East. They're taking the teams that are currently in the top 8, along with the Washington Wizards, who stand 5.5 games behind Orlando for that 8th and final spot. So it looks like the 8 in the East are already set, barring a miracle comeback where the Wizards would somehow pick up 5.5 games over an 8-game span, which seems unlikely. It's probably going to be the 8 teams that you have right now. Now, in the West, you've got a little bit more margin. You have a lot of teams that are jammed up there between the 9th and 13th spot. You've got the Grizzlies, who are a game under 500, and then you've got the Portland Trailblazers, the New York, and the Pelicans, who are both 3.5 games back. You've got the Spurs, who are 4 games back, and you've got the Suns, which would be the last team in the round robin, and they are 6 games back. So, again, it's going to take not a miracle, but it is going to take some fortunate breaks for anybody but the top 8 in the West to qualify. But there is a little more hope there as a couple of teams stand just 3.5 games behind the Grizz there for the last playoffs.
How great of a plan is this? We got more Wizards and Kings basketball. I mean, I don't know how anybody's against this plan at all. I mean, come on.
Oh, okay. If I could, all I wanted this whole time we were out, I just said, if I could just see the Kings and the Suns play one more
I'll
game.
be a really happy guy. I actually like the Suns, so I'm not even going to roast them just because I actually do like Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton. I think they actually have some talent. The Kings are okay. Am I really looking forward to seeing Luke Walton coaching these type of – no. Who cares? I mean, the Wizards have Bradley Beal, and you can make the argument, well, you still got Lillard, you still got Zion, so there are still some superstars that are available to make it interesting. You're watching Kings games. Who are you rooting for? Buddy Hield? You got De'Aaron Fox?
Well, I am rooting for Buddy Hield because I'm a Big 12 guy. So
I like Hield also, but he's not in the same – I don't think anyone's waking up in the morning like pumping their fist going, yeah, we got Buddy Hield coming off the bench for another 8 games. I don't know how I say no to this. I don't know. It seems a little bit much to me. I think you could easily – let me ask you a question. Would it really make a difference to you if it was just normal 1 through 8 on both conferences?
No.
It wouldn't matter. That's all I'm saying.
How old are you?
22.
So young and so cynical. I'm just trying to remember.
23 though in about a week. So I got 23-year-old vibes coming off with some negativity. It's not a matter of just being cynical. Just a matter of I just think that there's no real point in rocking the boat.
Oh no, you're definitely cynical. What you're saying.
Oh no, I'm not denying.
In the morning, wishing for Buddy Hield to come off the bench. That's a little cynical, right?
I don't think he should be coming off the bench, but that's a separate story. But I'm just saying it makes sense if you have a superstar appeal for some teams, and you could say, well, I know people will watch Zion play. I know people will watch Lillard play. I know people are going to be watching Booker and some of these other players. Do the Kings really have anybody that people are going to be turning their TVs to go, I got to watch this guy play?
Probably no, not. I think the Kings suffer from the West Coast problem anyway, which is not a lot of teams get to see their games, and not a lot of teams get to see their games because they're the Kings. So if you're going to be showing a West Coast game, you're going to be showing the Lakers, the Clippers, in past years, of course, the Warriors. So
I'm not saying I don't think the Kings are awful. It's just a matter of I feel like some of these teams you don't gain much by having them there.
No. Now, my question about the lottery, Scott, are you going to are they like if you're the 13th ranked team now, if you're the Suns and you go on a little bit of a winning streak, but you don't make the playoffs, would you make it up to the 9th position? Is that how you're going to be seeded for the lottery?
Well, that's what I was asking you. I'm not sure how that's supposed to work out. If you lose in the final round of the play-in tournament, do you surpass all the people that lost in the first round? I don't know.
I think you do. I think
you do too. So the point is you have to wonder about some teams like the Suns or like any of these other teams. Are they just going to, I don't know, shift it into autopilot mode and try to take the better draft pick?
No. I'm not. I'm going to say everybody's going to be playing their fullest ability and trying as hard as they possibly can every minute of the game.
I think that they probably should do that, but at the same point, you have to wonder about the teams in the front office.
I just feel like I have to counteract your cynicism.
It's possible. I'm saying that the cynicism's been set, but I do agree these athletes want to compete and they want to win. But if you were in the front office of any organization and you were playing in this 8 through 13 thing and you're the 12th seed, are you really rooting for your team to make the playoffs? I don't know. Because you're not going to get any extra money from playoff tickets. You might get you're not even going to get regional broadcasting rights.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to get. I mean, I'm sure they'll get a little bump by making the playoffs, but
I mean, no, because everything's going to be on probably TNT, ESPN. They're going to have all these games on regular cable television.
You have to give them some sort of financial incentive.
You probably do, but I don't know anything about that behind the scenes, so I'm not really familiar with that.
What are they going to give them, like $100 and a gift certificate to Outback for winning their first series?
The only thing I know is that you see a decent amount of teams in the NBA in the second half of the seasons who blatantly tank. They basically bench everybody. They pull the plug on a couple of star players, and they claim, his knee's injured. But, if they were the 5 seed in the playoffs, he'd be playing 45 minutes a night in the playoffs.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You have to wonder if that's going to apply, if that's going to apply in this type of situation, where a team in the 13th spot like the Suns decide, screw it. We'd rather be 14th. We don't want to do it. And I don't think that's going to happen. But in the back of your mind, you have to wonder if that's a possibility.
Again, but yeah, you have to wonder about that every year. So
Correct.
yeah, I don't know. All right, so let's leave the round ball behind and talk about those mother puckers up there
As
north.
opposed to the non-round ball. I don't know what that means,
That's what they
but
call it. That's what they call basketball. Called round ball.
yeah, okay.
You
I'm
never heard
just saying
that?
every ball is technically round.
I
So
understand that, but basketball is the one that is saddled with the name of round ball. We're going to play a little round ball. You ever
okay.
heard that?
No, I've never heard that in my
You
life.
never heard that in your life?
No, never heard that in my
We're going
life.
to play round ball.
No,
Oh, that's absolutely true.
no. I've never heard. I believe you. Maybe that's a Kansas City thing. I
It's
don't
not a
know.
Kansas City. No, it's not a Kansas City thing.
Are you sure it's not the same thing as being the difference between barbecuing and grilling? I
That
don't know.
no, good Lord. Is your dad a sports fan?
Yes.
If you said go to your dad when you see him and say, Dad, if I was going to ask you if you want to go play a little round ball, what sport do you think we're going to
I
go?
get my cynicism from him, so I'd probably be asking the wrong guy.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll ask just for you. I'll ask and I'll let you
And
know.
by the way, Scott, if you've ever seen a football game, not all balls all around. Okay, so just saying.
Really? Okay, I'll keep that in mind. That
You've
makes
seen a foot. You've
it
seen a
makes a lot more sense now that I think about it.
huh?
That makes a lot more sense now that I think about it.
Let's talk about the NHL. Let's talk about some pucks, Scott. We got a plan. We got a plan. They're going to play in 2 hub cities. They've got 24 teams that are going to play. They opened it up to almost everybody. Just the NHL. They said, you know what, the more the merrier. Let's go ahead and have a bunch of teams play. And we talked a little bit about what that's going to look like. They don't have the cities set, however, and they don't have a timetable. But they do have a 4-phase plan that is they're getting ready to operate phase 2. Phase 2 permits players to return to team practice facilities for voluntary small group individualized training activities, whether on or off the ice. It's a voluntary thing. They're going to be in small groups, which are a maximum of 6 players at one time, plus a limited number of staff. And measures set out in phase 2 tend to provide players with a safe and controlled environment in which to resume their conditioning. It is not a substitute for training camp. And all the necessary preparations for phase 2 includes, of course, participation, education, diagnostic testing, schedule for medicals, etc., can begin immediately. So they are go ahead with phase 2. Phase 3 is mandatory training camps. That will not happen before July 10th, which means the implementation of phase 4, which is actually playing the games, can occur at the earliest in late July, with the beginning of August as an option as well. Scott, what do you think about the NHL plan?
I'm a fan of it. I think the NHL playoffs are my favorite playoffs in all sports, not counting March Madness. I think that's a completely separate category. But I love the NHL playoffs, and I think adding more teams makes it even more chaotic in what is already the most chaotic playoff system on the planet. So I can't really say no to that. They have made a couple of nuance changes for the sake of this year. First of all, besides adding more teams, they have the qualifying round, which are going to be best of 5, and then every series after that will be best of 7. Every series before that was also best of 7, but there were some rumors of potentially moving some of the series to 3 out of 5 to make it go faster, but that got shut down, and they decided to keep the 16 games to win a Stanley Cup championship format in place. So they decided to keep that. Other than that, though, they are going to be reseeding. So they kind of got rid of the new division playoff situation where you pretty much have the same teams playing against each other in the playoffs every year,
Right.
which I think is I think the change that they made from the 1 to 8 to this division thing is one of the stupidest changes I've seen from a playoff system. The 1 through 8 system that they used to have, I thought was flawless, and I don't really know why they would change it. They also brought back reseeding. I've never really been a big fan of reseeding, to be honest, because I feel like that's part of the reward of, just chaotic sports is that you have a team that upsets somebody else. The 8 seed beats the 1 seed. And you go, all right, great, this should be rewarded. Except now the 8 seed's reward is playing the 2.
Right.
Like that, you're just completely sabotaging the hopes of any Cinderella story because they're going to have to play against the hardest competition every single round. And I'm not really a big fan of that.
Yeah, it really seems like the NHL is they want their best teams playing at the end.
It makes sense. I mean, the NHL's ratings in comparison to other sports aren't necessarily the greatest. They have to try to keep the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Capitals and all these other teams, in prime position to make a deep run. So they've done reseeding for the 1 through 8 in years past, which was my only gripe with their system. I'm okay with it. It doesn't exactly help my Blackhawks ticket because I have them as the longest underdog, and now they're going to have to go through a massive gauntlet in the Western Conference.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I'm fine with more teams. I like they got rid of the division breakdown thing. Not the biggest fan of reseeding, but other than that, I really don't have many issues with this plan.
All right, it'll be curious to see what cities they choose, and and it's going to be you're probably not going to find a complex that has three ice arenas, like you can find 3 basketball courts. Would be my guess.
Canada, if it was anywhere, but
yeah, they're not really talking about Canada, so we'll see what happens with that. I just don't know. I don't.
There are
know.
a couple of hub cities that you could throw out. I would throw out any area in California.
Right.
And that's basically a lost cause. I think Vegas makes perfect sense.
Vegas, Phoenix, your classic hockey hotbeds out there in the
Yes,
Southwest.
literally hotbeds for hockey. Yeah, I think that if you're going to find any of these hub cities, it has to be areas that have pretty much, I don't want to say opened their doors, but have started to at least resume, for the most part, regular day life. And Vegas has finally started opening up casinos again.
Open yesterday.
Vegas has done really well for hockey ever since the Golden Knights got there.
Yep.
It's been really good. And you can make an argument for the hub cities. Maybe Arizona was considering opening up some stuff, so maybe there. I don't remember if Florida was one of the hub areas listed.
Yes.
That's an option also because Florida's opened up some stuff. You have options. So
right.
Most of the warm climate, which isn't great, but that's probably where you're looking.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to. I don't think they're going to be able to play the schedule that the NBA is. I don't think you're going to find. I just know that you're going to find 3 arenas under the same.
You're going to the playoffs. I don't think there's going to be any regular season finishing up.
That's true as well. But I mean, you've still got days where you'd have 3 series going at the same day.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have to play, probably a 2:00 in the afternoon game, maybe a 6:00 and 9:00.
And you also have to worry about just maintaining the court. Because in basketball, you could easily just do it because it's just wooden floors. You can wax the thing, whatever.
Right.
The amount of Zamboni drivers are going to have to be cycling through for the sake of each individual game is going to be, a little bit of it's going to be a little annoying to maintain the quality of ice if you're going to be using the same rink over and over again.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so NHL, they're on track for a late July, early August start. They look like they're in good shape. A little bit of football. Not a ton of news coming out of football. The NFL still thinks they're still on track. There's been the only big movement since we talked last time is all the teams have moved their training camps to the team facilities.
Other than that, nothing has really changed. The NFL seemed from the get-go, oh, yeah, we're going to be starting normal time. And everyone's looking around like, what are you even?
I haven't heard about preseason games. Is the preseason schedule going to be normal?
If anything was going to be taken away, it would be preseason games because people have already been talking about removing preseason games in previous years anyway.
Right.
So it would be a good chance to test out a 2-week preseason instead of a 4-week preseason just as a trial run, so to speak.
I do wonder if we're going to come to that. That is the question that I have because I know they haven't made any announcements yet with the preseason. But
what do you think of preseason? I don't think you need 4 weeks.
It's hard to say.
I agree. Because if you do take away from preseason games, people underestimate how rusty and how just the timing is going to be off on everybody for week 1. Week 1 might look significantly worse and more sloppy because of less preseason games, even though nobody watches preseason games.
But, these guys aren't playing. I mean, your starting quarterback in a typical team, he's going to play a series, maybe 2 series the first week. Same as the second week.
Third week, usually a quarter, maybe a quarter and a half.
Right. That's what I'm saying. The third week, you're going to play a half at the most.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to hit – they're already hitting the regular season with less than a game of live fire under their belt. So I don't know that we can't make the determination about who should be on the roster and who isn't in 2 games versus 4.
Well, you're also talking about for huge positions. It doesn't exactly apply for the bottom end of the depth chart, but I see your point.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, no, you still need to kind of you need a situation where you got to find out who can make the squad and who can't, So maybe you expand the rosters for the first month.
It's possible. That's an option.
More positions, something like that. I don't know. We'll see. I think the NFL, they're going to play. the
You know,
NFL.
I'm just saying with the potentially shortened preseason and with the lack of preparation time, week 1, I'll be betting a lot of unders. That's all I'm saying.
It was ugly last year. If you remember that Chicago Green Bay game, just that started.
Any game involving Chicago was ugly. So that's not really a fair point. But yeah, that game was – I had money on the Packers in that game.
Yeah.
Actually, no, I had money on Rodgers no interception in that game.
Okay.
But it was not
good.
good. Not good.
It made you long for week 4 of the preseason is that game. All right. So NFL, they're coming. There's going to be some college football teams have already started to come back to the some of the facilities. The Notre Dame made news. They're going to be sequestered in a hotel starting in the middle of June, and then start regular season off season.
Yeah, in terms of news for college football, a lot of it seems to be up to the individual programs.
Yeah.
So it's kind of going to be hit or miss with regard to how many teams are going to be playing, what's going to happen. It really depends on how schools wish to proceed in their own right.
Right. And, there is no overall – even though the NCAA, they all play under the umbrella of the NCAA, the power structure is kind of weird because they basically sued and got away from it so that they're playing under CFB. So that the head of the NCAA has no real jurisdiction over who plays and who doesn't. So it's individual schools, individual conferences. I think that California said, nobody's going to play. I think they may have to revisit that. We'll see. We'll see.
Well,
we
talked about beforehand. Sorry to interrupt. That we thought it was premature to even make that announcement anyway, and It turns out it was completely premature to make that announcement anyway. So,
right, agreed. California did much better than anticipated with the virus overall. Everybody assumed that it was going to be kind of the same situation as New York, in LA and San Francisco, and it wasn't. It didn't turn that way. So, one thing to talk about, Scott, when we left it for the end.
Yeah.
There is some bad news when it comes to professional sports coming back, and it was. Let's start with the tweet that the players representative, the head of the Players Union, put out yesterday. Tony Clark said the demand for additional concessions was resoundingly rejected. Now, you don't even know. Just by that statement, you know what league I'm talking about. And that is, of course, the MLB.
Nothing makes me more excited than makeshift labor strikes in the middle of a pandemic. That is definitely, peak content that I'm looking for.
A little bit of a little tone deaf there, my friend. The owners wanted to play the players wanted to play. They put a proposal to play 114 games. The owners said no. The owners put a proposal to play, roughly half of those, about 50 in the 50s. They're not going to get this done.
I forgot the best part, though. The players were like, yeah, we want 114. And the owners said no, and they just provided no counteroffer, which I found absolutely hilarious to me.
No,
what's the point of negotiating if you're not going to provide counteroffers? I don't know what's going on out here.
Now, Manfred is playing this out through the press. He's talked about the willingness to play a much shorter season, somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 if they can't reach an agreement. And
I said 82. I said 82 is the number they should be looking for, and that seems like that's the number that they would reach, or 81 if they were going to make a season or not.
Yeah.
I mean,
that original plan.
We both were skeptical even in the beginning, and I'm more skeptical now. So, yeah. I don't want to say it's done, but it's on life support right now.
Well, they said they talked about they really had to get it done last week. Of course, nothing happened last week.
Correct.
Supposedly, there's still a little bit of a window this week. I'm looking towards my window right now, and that seems to be almost shut.
I'm just saying it's on life support. You got to wonder when somebody's going to pull the plug.
I wouldn't put my fingers underneath that window because you're going to get them smashed.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that either. Do I think there's going to be baseball this season?
Nope.
I think there will be in Korea.
You're going to be Korea and Japan.
Yeah.
And by the way, a little bit that we talked about, just to backtrack a little bit, the NBA is going to be starting their season up December 1st this year, which is a lot closer to the plan that you and I think they ought to be doing every year.
Okay. I thought Christmas, but that works, I guess.
Yeah, well, they're getting there. So, Scott, the odds of if you're a betting man, Scott, what would you say the odds are that we're going to see MLB in 2020?
Well, I already know the answer to that because BetOnline actually had a prop on if there will be an MLB regular season. Unfortunately, the max bet was $25, so it wasn't really worth my time. but they had no regular season at plus 200. And if the max bet was more than $25, I would probably take it. But there's no point in betting this random money that's really not going to make much of a difference.
Really? There's no point in making $50?
I think it could be, but you're gonna have to wait it out another month and a half.
Okay.
You need a definitive announcement saying no, it's over. And I don't know if we're going to get that because they're just going to keep stringing people along saying it's coming. We're working on it. It's going to be here. It's going to be great. It's going to be damn September. They're just going to be like, it's on its way. It's like, no, it's not.
So you can't
stop it.
You can't tie up $25, high roller?
No, you could, but the point is I kind of just premise-wise, I just don't like it when sites provide lines and their max bet is so low or their limit is so low. It just frustrates me personally.
Plus, I think those are terrible odds. I think the true odds, as far as you're saying, no was actually an underdog.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no. I think
why I would take it. I think it should. I think you can make the argument it should be pick 'em right now.
Even money at best. Yeah, I think if you read the tea leaves, I think no should probably be around minus 150.
Yeah, if the limit was around $50 or something, then I would easily slam it. But 20, I mean, like I guess, but you know what I mean? It's not the same.
Okay, well, it's nice to be 22 and not even need that $50. So I like that. You've got yourself in a good position there, my friend.
I could tell you're in the middle of putting the bet in for yourself right now. So that's
looking at it right now.
Is it still there? Is it still plus 200?
It is. It's and there's hellacious juice on it because yes is minus 300.
Yeah, I was actually looking for other books to try to compare lines, and I didn't see any other books that had that prop available. So,
good time.
If I had to price the lines personally, I would put the no at like minus 135.
I am impressed that I never. Yeah, I think that's about right. I'm surprised that we never saw coronavirus deaths over and under. That's what's stunning to me.
I know Five Dimes had some Corona props, so they might have actually had that in the past.
Oh, did they?
They might have. I don't know, but I know that if there was one book that would have had something, either would have been BetOnline or Five Dimes.
Well, I stand corrected. I was going to give a hat tip to the betting industry for not putting out such a garish line.
I believe Five Dimes had some Corona props, so
outstanding.
I don't know.
Okay. All right, buddy. Well, you excited? I mean, what do you think? Should people that watch us, should they be excited? Or do you think it's we're moving in the right direction?
I mean, I think you should. Okay. With the exception of you being a massive baseball fan, I think you should be pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
It is what it is. I feel like even if you're a massive baseball fan, you should realize that I'm not even sure how much of it has to do with safety of players anymore in comparison to just money. And that's the one thing about a lot of leagues. But some people made the argument publicly, might not be safe for me to come back. I don't know. I haven't even heard that from baseball players. I've literally only heard we want to get paid. So it sounds just like a labor strike to me, which sounds like that could take months. So I am not optimistic about baseball at all.
It literally could take years because, this is the last year of the deal.
Correct. So this could spill over. But
I think here's a prop for you, and I know you really don't want to tie up your money in this one. I think there's a better chance that we don't see baseball until 2022 than there is that we see baseball in 2020. How about that?
The truth is, I don't know, because the thing you have to wonder is that since these negotiations have already, or whatever you want, they're not even negotiations. I don't even know what to call these, between the players and the owners, there has already been some type of communication. So maybe they can work something out a little bit faster because they're already in communication. So you don't have to worry about that stuff. But then again, every time any of the players' reps or the owners' reps open their mouths, you have no idea what the hell they're talking about.
Don't kid yourself. They've been working on this for a year.
Correct. So it's not great, but I can guarantee you if there is no baseball season this season, they're going to do whatever they can to make sure there's a season for next year.
That is the thought. That is the one hope that we have, that they will, not that shooting themselves in the foot, that they won't just turn the gun on their head.
I mean, serious question. Can Manfred really be commissioner of a sport if he has no season for 2 straight years? Of course not. He'll get immediately fired, and they might throw him out of the building. Like, I think you're either going to have one or the other. I think if you do have a season in 2021, you're still going to have a massive potential lockout next year.
You mean 2020?
Yeah, 2020, sorry. In 2020. And then you're going to have a massive lockout potentially in 2021. But if there is no 2020 season, I think you'll have a 2021 because I think that both sides will be forced to make some type of agreement.
Okay.
That's my 2 cents on that.
All right. Well, good for you. So you're 22. You have a little bit of optimism. You're not completely cynical like I am.
Tables have turned.
I remember 90. Was it 94? Was the strike season when they just completely shot themselves in the head and canceled the World Series and everything and lost a lot of baseball fans. I don't know, bud. I don't know. I hope you're right. This season we're kind of in the weird position in Kansas City is the longer it goes into the summer, the better chance the Royals have.
Yeah, but serious question though. I know the MLB is one of the major sports, even though the ratings have plummeted over the last couple of years. Do you think the MLB could really survive if it doesn't have a season for 2 years?
Yes.
I think it could survive, but wouldn't you agree that they might lose a decent percentage of their viewers?
Yes. I think you would lose.
I don't want to say half, but like 40%.
I was going to say closer to 20-25%.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. Still, your ratings are plummeting every year, and you're going to lose based on theoretical scenarios. What, you're going to lose a quarter of your diminishing audience already?
Yeah. Here's what I haven't heard. Scott, is the XFL done, or are they just done for this year?
From what I heard is that originally they were done. And then I heard that there were a couple of buyers who were potentially interested in buying the company and bringing it back from the grave. So I am not sure, but apparently a couple of people are trying to bring it back.
I think if you had quality football in the summertime, I think baseball could be in trouble.
Well, the XFL did decently from a ratings perspective for an upstart league this past year. So
they did the same thing that all the leagues do.
They start off really hot and they cool down. But I think in comparison to other leagues, though, the XFL's ratings were actually decent for an upstart league for the majority of the season.
Well, they were certainly better than the AAFL. No question about that.
Yeah, the AAF was a disaster. So
not good.
If the XFL didn't have Corona, they would have finished the season.
Oh, well, absolutely.
So you can make the argument that the XFL round 2 was somewhat successful in a way, at least for limited expectations.
And again, a lot of innovative rule changes that everybody liked. So
except the NFL's not adding the skybox, whatever, because they hate actually getting calls right in the span of actual games. But
they're getting close though. They're
Judge, yeah. I don't know why that wasn't approved unanimously. That was the easiest approval I've ever seen, and they just decided, you know what? We're gonna keep letting refs screw up with no review system at all, and we're just gonna see what happens.
Right. Yeah. All right, bud. Well, it was fun. It was. I feel like people want to know because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of news, a lot of competing social media stuff. So I feel like we kind of do a service here by sorting everything out, letting everybody know time frames and everything like that. So it's coming. Less than 2 months, man. Less than 2 months. We're gonna have professional sports back, and then not back to normal, but we're gonna be back to the new normal not too long after that. So we'll see what happens. So. Any parting words here before we go?
Looking forward to covering NASCAR tomorrow.
Yep. And there's words you never thought you'd say, did you?
I don't want to jinx myself, but the results have been pretty good. So I guess I'm kind of hoping it continues. All
right, very good. We'll be back tomorrow with Winning Willie to talk a little NASCAR Atlanta. We're going down to Atlanta this week to run on that blazing fast 1.5 mile surface. So make sure you stop by and check out today in sports betting, tomorrow in sports betting. And until then, we appreciate all you guys watching as well. I appreciate Scott being here, being the co-host as always, buddy. You got a big day planned today?
Not really. Just going to hang out and enjoy the nice weather as it suddenly warmed up in the New York area. So
there you go. Well, we're doing a little NASCAR research, so we'll be back tomorrow to talk to you guys about that. But until then, guys, thanks for stopping by. Of course, don't forget to stop by and check out winnersandwhiners.com. Great content each and every day. Always the best, always free, always in one spot, winnersandwhiners.com. Check out all the stuff we got going on, NASCAR, UFC, Korean baseball. I know we got more WWE coming up. So, make sure you stop by and check out those websites as well. And for myself, for Scott Reichel, for all of us over here at winnersandwhiners.com, we appreciate you being with us today. Come back and see us tomorrow. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section. Let us know what you're thinking about. Let us know what you're talking about. Let us know how excited you are with baseball, with the NBA, and potentially the NHL coming back here pretty quick as well. All right? You guys take care. Hope everybody has a great Friday, heads into a great weekend. Enjoy that nice weather. I think, like Scott said, summer's here, baby. So get out there and have some fun. If your pool's open, go hit your pool. If it's not, go run through the sprinkler. Have a blast, all right? Everybody take care. Have a great day, and we'll see you again next time. Take care.